To come and share a post-operation update on Biggs and how he's doing. First of all, I want to thank everybody that took the time to comment on the video where I was sharing about Biggs having hip surgery. So I want to thank everybody that commented, was thinking about us for his surgery. I appreciate that, and I was telling Biggs about you all that were thinking of him. So thank you for that. Also, I want to thank any new subscribers that have come to my channel. Thank you. And of course, all my old subscribers for sticking with me. So thank you as well. So on to the update. Well, first I'm going to share about the surgery, and then I'm going to give you the update on how he's doing. So we are 1 week and a day post-operation. He had his surgery last Wednesday, and surgery is supposed to start at 9 o'clock. It didn't start until, I think, 10:45. So we get to the hospital. Me and my husband took Biggs, and Little stayed here with my brother. Because we had to be up early, they wanted us to be there at 7:30. So we got up at 6:30 and got ourselves ready. Biggs, we had already gave him a shower and a haircut the night before, so we didn't have to worry about that. But we thought it was best to let Little stay at home and rest, because that was just really early for him to be up and then just waiting at the hospital all that time. And the lady that did our surgery or hospital tour, she encouraged us as well to try to keep Little's schedule as normal as possible. So my brother came and stayed with him, and that allowed me and my husband to go and get him ready for operation. And that was a nice time to just spend time with him together, just me, Dad, and him. So we get to the hospital. He was excited the whole morning, so that was good. He was in a good mood. He was giggling and laughing and making happy sounds. So that was a good thing. We get him there. We had to get him into the hospital gown. And then we had to answer all the preliminary questions. And then we met with the anesthesiologist, which he had a good anesthesiologist this time. He was very thorough. He was very concerned about Biggs' well-being. And, you know, my husband and I, well, of course, we had our concerns. And we shared our concerns with him, and he heard us out. And he was very adamant about telling us that he was going to be as conservative as possible with the medicines, the pain medicines that he was putting into Biggs. He was like, I'm just going to take my time and just gauge how he's doing and just, you know, gradually give it to him as needed. So that was good. He communicated very well with us. Because Biggs does have a lot of secretions. Of course, the concern was about his airway and stuff like that. But that went well. The only problem or hiccup they came up against was trying to find a vein. Biggs can be a hard stick. And in years past, he used to have a MedPort. And a MedPort is a medical device that they, for him, it was up here in like his shoulder area. And that allows easy access to veins or to a blood supply when you need an IV or something like that. But long story short, for a while, Biggs was not having any hospital stays. He was healthy. So we thought it was best to take the MedPort out because it wasn't being used. So anyway, so now back to he's in surgery. And we, so yeah, my husband stayed after we got him dressed and we answered all the questions. We prayed with them and just encouraged Biggs the best that we could. I did tear up a little because it's just hard. I don't think that's ever going to get easy for me. I don't care if he's 25 and still having a surgery. I'm still going to tear up. But he was just so brave. He was so brave. But they pushed him back to the OR, and when he was gone, I went back home to go get Little because we were having a play date with some friends. So anyway, so my husband calls me and he tells me that they were having a hard time finding a vein for Biggs. So they did an IV in his hand and an IV in his foot, but they weren't for sure if that IV was going to, if those IVs were going to hold up. So then they did a central line in his left groin. So because they did a central line, that also means he had to have a catheter, because they didn't want any urine getting into that central line site, because that can cause an infection. But thankfully, he was already sedated. They had gave him the mask, so that sedated him. So when all of these, when there's complication of trying to find the vein for them to do the IV, for the other medicine to go through the IV, he was already sedated, so he didn't feel any of this. And so I was very happy about that when my husband told me. So once they got all of that taken care of, they was finally able to start the surgery. And the surgery lasted about maybe 4.5 hours, close to 5, because of all the stuff that happened trying to find the vein. That took about 45 minutes to even get that situated, and then they could start the surgery. But the surgery went well. His surgeon was very good. He also talked to us prior to the surgery, and just making sure we were all on the same page about what he was going to do and stuff like that. So, like I said, while he was in surgery, my husband stayed at the hospital, and me and Little went and we had a play date with some friends, and he got to play around, and it was so cute. My husband had called Little as I was coming back home to come get him. My husband had already called, and he was talking to him for a moment to see how he was doing. And Little had asked, he was like, "Is Big Brother in surgery?" And my husband was like, "No, not yet." But he was telling him how well he was doing prior to surgery, just how he was in a good mood, and he went when they finally took him back, he was chattering and stuff like that, and he was telling him how brave he was. So I get home, and Little comes up to me, and he was like, "I'm so proud." He's like, "I'm so proud of Big Brother. He was so brave." And he was like, "I'm so proud of him, and I can't wait to tell him." And so that was just so sweet that he handled that very well. And the fact that Big Brother was in a good mood and happy, that made him feel comfortable. So we went on about our day, and then I got probably around like 1:55. My husband called me, or probably at 1:55 he called me, or 2 o'clock, saying that surgery was over. So we me and Little head up to the hospital, and when we got up there, my mom was up there with my husband, and so we were just waiting because he was in recovery. So we were waiting to go see him. So finally, me and my husband were able to go back and see him, and he was coming to, and he just kind of had, as he was coming to, he just kind of had this look of, what just happened? But he looked good. They showed us everything that they did. He had an abduction pillow between his legs, because this surgeon didn't do a cast. He also has, let's see if I can show you guys. Wait, I think I have it upside down. There we go. So this is what is in his hip. Now, because I've mentioned before, because this hip was arthritic, it cannot go back in the socket. So this hip is always going to be dislocated. It wasn't an option. There was no options to try to get this hip relocated, because it would have kept popping out. So what his surgeon did was he put these pins in his hip, and then he cut, well, before he did that, he cut a triangle in the bone, and then he took out that piece of the triangle, and then he brought the bone together, and then he put in these screws. He also did a tendon lengthening also on that right thigh, but on the inner part of the thigh. And he turned the top part of the hip bone, or that femur bone, it's like straight up, or kind of away from the bone, but from the hip socket, but it's not touching it. And the surgeon had told my husband when he was in there, doing the surgery, he could feel the grinding. And then once he got everything situated, Biggs' range of motion was much better. So this is what's going on. So all of that's done. We get him up on the floor, and he's coming to and resting and just, allowing his body to relax and stuff like that. So the next day is Thursday. And I just want to say this because it's very important for those of us that are special needs parents to be the advocates for our children, and to make sure that the medical staff and you are on the same page. So, because at the end of the day, our children aren't going to be mad at the doctors or the nurses when something happens that us as the parents could have avoided on the behalf of our children. Our kids are going to be mad at us. So Thursday comes, and we were talking about pain management, and they told us he was still on the one pain medication, which I cannot remember the name of it. And then they also put him on Tylenol. Then they were going to start him on another pain medicine that started with a T, and they had already wrote the order for that, and he had already got the first dose of that. So me and my husband are sitting there, and we're like, wait a minute, nobody mentioned this third pain medicine to us, and we didn't okay that. And the fact that they had already gave the first dose, we weren't happy about that, because it was like, we didn't approve of that. So what the problem was is the IV medicine that he was on, pain medicine that he was on, it was going through his IV, that was eventually going to be ending. So they wanted to have another pain medicine in place. Okay, I understand that. But we didn't want him on both of these heavy pain medicines at the same time, is what we were explaining to them. So anyway, we talked to the pain management doctor, which worked out really great for us, because the pain management doctor is somebody we knew from our past, his hospital stays when Biggs was really little, and he was a part of the palliative care team, was over his care when he was younger. So she was one of the members at that time, and she's now a part of pain management. So it was great when she walked in. She knew who our son was. She remembered us, and she heard us out. And I think it was great that it just happened to work out that it was somebody we knew. But so she was on board with what we had said, and we just stayed firm. It was like, no, we don't want to start this other pain medicine until Friday, because by then the current pain medicine he was on, that would have been done with that. So we dealt with that. Then the next thing that came up was PT had wanted. Now this is Thursday. This is the day after his surgery, and on Wednesday night, once he was on the floor, Biggs, he wasn't resting too well, and his blood pressure did go up a little. It wasn't too alarming, but it was just an indication that he was in pain. So we had to get that situated. But so he didn't sleep well, from what my husband told me. And my husband stayed at the hospital every night with him, and me and Little came home and slept. So that was great. And my husband, like I said, he said that Biggs didn't sleep well Wednesday night. So, okay, back to Thursday. So we got that pain medicine situated. Now, like I said, PT comes along. This is what the nurses are telling us. Oh, they want him to get up in his wheelchair every 3 hours. And me and my husband said, no, that's not going to happen today. Because when we were told that information, Biggs was sleeping. He was resting really well. And we're like, no, we're going to let him sleep. He just had surgery yesterday. We're not trying to get him up in his chair today. And the nurse, she was very nice, and she was like, no, I understand what you guys are saying. They just, when children have surgeries and they're in wheelchairs, they like for them to get up into their chair as soon as possible. And we said, we understand that, but he needs to rest first. and we're going to let him rest as long as he needs, and then we'll try the chair, get him up in his chair, either later today or, on Friday. And the thing of it is every child is different. And Biggs is one of those kids. He's different. We knew he's not going to respond well. We're trying to get him up in his chair, and he has not rested. But everything worked out. They heard us. They respected what we said, and we moved on. So those were two things where we just had to stand our ground and make sure everybody got on the same page, and that what we wanted and what we knew that was best for our son came to fruition. So that was Thursday. So then Friday, things are good. His blood pressure is good. We got the medicine that we wanted. They kept mentioning oxycodone. We did not want to do that because oxycodone is very habit forming, and we didn't want that in Big's system. So we found another medicine that we were comfortable with for when he comes home, because most of the medicines that he was still on for pain management were still going through the IV. So we had to get something that can go through his G-tube. So we got that situated. Then they were like, we can write up your discharge papers. Because, by later on Thursday night, he woke up and he was just babbling and talking. And, he was very happy. He was back to himself. So Friday, like I said, Friday comes. And they were like, we're going to write your discharge papers. And we're like, okay, we can go home. And we needed to set up a transportation service because my husband, he was not comfortable with lifting him by himself and getting him into the van. Because in order to lift Biggs, he would have to kind of fold him a little. And he didn't want to cause any aggravation on that hip. And because we don't have a wheelchair accessible van yet, I'm still saying yet because I am believing and I have hope that we will have a van soon. Hopefully within this year we'll have a van. But that's another story. So we figured the best option for him is to be transported home in his wheelchair. If he would have been in a cast, we probably would have tried to do a transport where he had to be in a gurney because he probably have to be laying down. But because of how the surgery went and the pins, he could sit up. So we had to get that situated. So we had to talk to a social worker. They had to get that situated. But then we find out, he can't go home until the medical staff sees him in his wheelchair to see that he can tolerate it. We didn't have a problem with that. The problem was they didn't communicate that to us because they was like, we need to get him up in his chair. And we were like, okay, we'll do it before we leave. Because my husband didn't want to transfer him into his chair and then get him back into the bed. So that's where the miscommunication came from. And they could have just told us that in the beginning. In order for him to, officially go home, we need to see him in the chair. Once we heard that, we were like, okay, that, that makes sense. So my husband and the PT, or the OT, no, my husband and the PT guy, they did a 2-man lift and got him into his chair. And you guys, Biggs was awesome. He didn't grimace. He got in that chair like a champ. I was so proud of him. So we got him in the chair and we just let him stay in the chair for a while. We took a little a walk around the hospital. We visited some other people that we knew. And while this is going on, the social worker is trying to get service transportation for us. And they have to go to private transportation services. They don't have their own transportation service within the hospital. So, long story short, we finally hear word, okay, we got transportation service, and they were contacting 2 companies. The big thing was they have to make sure that company is, they will allow one of us to ride home with Biggs, because that was on his paperwork. He's nonverbal, and a parent needs to accompany him. And because they're dealing with private companies, some companies may not allow that. So they had to make sure they got a company that allowed that. Okay. Then we hear, okay, we have a service for you, and a parent can accompany him, but they're not going to come until 9 o'clock at night. We're still in the early afternoon, like 2, 3 o'clock. So we're like, okay, we're going to be here until 9 o'clock. So we just take our time, getting stuff together, hanging out on together, and then it's like 8:30. And we're like, okay, you know, things should be coming soon. So we get Biggs was back. You know, he was still in his chair, still in his wheelchair, and we were waiting. It's 9 o'clock. We don't hear anything. It's 9:15. We still don't hear anything. 9:20, and then I talked to the nurse, and she was like, something happened. They didn't. The transportation service said they didn't get a call about picking you guys up. And we're like, okay. So they had to stay another night. So my husband and Biggs stayed at the hospital another night, and me and Little came home. And then Saturday morning, the transportation service came and got them from the hospital and brought them home. And my plan was to try to get a picture of Biggs coming out of the transportation vehicle, but I didn't get a chance to, because that man got him off that van so quick and up to our door that I wasn't able to get a picture. But I was able to just still get a picture of the transportation vehicle in our driveway. So so now we're home. Biggs is doing well. He's still getting his at-home pain medicine, and he's doing good. He's been making his happy noises. We've been getting him out of the bed into his chair once a day, and letting him be up for a couple of hours. Yesterday, he got to go outside. It was hot, but by the time we went outside, it wasn't hot. It was warm. It was comfortable for him. So he got to go out, and he enjoyed that. He was giggling and laughing, and my husband was doing yard work, and I was doing some other stuff, and Little was playing around, and he was so happy that Big Brother, he's like, oh, Big Brother having fun, and he's enjoying being out. So, yeah, so he's doing good. He will have a post-op appointment this week to go see the nurse practitioner for his surgeon. So they're most likely going to check the dressing on his outside of his hip where he cut the bone and stuff, and then they're going to check the dressing on the inside of the thigh where they did the tendon lifting. So yeah, I know they're going to do that for sure. And because this because this appointment was short notice, I wasn't able to set up transportation service for them to come pick us up to take us to the hospital. So me and my husband are going to have to figure out a way to get him into the van without causing too much aggravation to his hip. And then my husband's going to put the wheelchair in the trunk, and we're going to go to the appointment. But yeah, Biggs is doing good, and we can't be any happier. So we're just going to go through this recovery process, and this is done, and we can move on. So yeah, I wanted to share that with you guys. And before I go, I put out a video yesterday concerning going thrifting. And in my thrifting video, I made a little annotation about that jar. And I think on mobile devices, you may not be able to see that annotation. And I know for me, I do watch a lot of videos on my phone. And sometimes I can see people's annotations, but I haven't figured out how you can do that. But like I said, when I looked at the video yesterday on my phone, I didn't see that annotation I made, but I did see it when I was looking at my computer. So anyway, just to let you guys know, if you watch the video or if you rewatch the video, I had asked the question, what DI project do you think I'm going to do with that jar? And just comment below on that video or what DI project you think I'm going to do with that jar. And when I do the project, I'll show you guys what it is and just say congratulations to all the people that, got it right. So I just thought that was fun to just have you guys guess what I was going to do with that jar. So that's it. I'll see you guys all again next time. Bye. Oh, by the way, the reason why this video is so long is because Dad took Little out for a little bit because he has to go to work later. So he took him out, and Big's asleep. He's resting. So, and I straightened up a little bit, and I was able to make this video and concentrate. So that's why it's kind of long. But I also wanted to give you guys an in-depth update and just how surgery went and everything. So that's it. Okay, I'll talk to you later. Bye.